How you doing? This is Coffee Break with Jimmy. There's several things the one thing I really want to talk about today is the Smith-Mundt Act. This was something I just learned about last week, and I studied up on it a little bit, and I know a little bit more about it. Even though we get, I really do want to talk about Donald Trump talking to Vladimir Putin and talking to Zelensky and all the other leaders from Europe, and it looks like he's going to make a deal. He's going to make something happen there. Zelensky and Putin is going to do something, and it looks like Donald Trump is well on his way on taking care of that. We'll have to see exactly what happens there, but we'll see. But anyway, the thing about the Smith-Mundt Act, it's how do you say it? Let me adjust this a little bit. The Smith-Mundt Act was enacted in 1948. It was after World War II, and what it did, it gave I don't know if it's just politicians or any any American that wanted to spread propaganda, whether it be like propaganda saying that we just dropped 2 bombs on on Japan, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so, at that point in time, Japan already said they woke up the sleeping giant, and they did. They bombed Pearl Harbor, but the war was over. So they put this act together and passed it by Congress. It's called the Smith-Mundt, M-U-N-D-T, Smith-Mundt Act, and it gave everybody the right to spread propaganda. But this was just supposed to go to other nations. The propaganda wasn't supposed to be spread here in the U.S. And so, but basically, what it gave them is the right to lie, and or to stretch the truth. Let's just call it that. The propaganda was going to be a stretching the truth, like say, no, we have the bomb now, and we have more, but not just the ones that we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but we have the power now to maybe put the fear in other countries that that weren't necessarily our friends, and after World War II. But even after all the wars ended, every war that's ended with anything that happened with the U.S., we rebuilt the nation. We didn't just leave them in shambles, and we do that today. And I guess we're going to find out what Russia's going to do with the Ukraine, and whether there any property gets given up by the Ukraine, the Donbass area, and there's some areas there that really aren't occupied by the Russians yet. But there's some haggling back and forth, and no one's really said anything. So before anything gets signed and everything, I'll talk more about that. But that's what's really going on right now. But the Smith-Mundt Act, it was reenacted in 2012 by Barack Obama. And apparently, the way I understand it, is this was slipped into a bill for the military that was passed unanimously by Congress. And I guess they put this not reenactment, but to reevaluate the Smith-Mundt Act, to where they can spread propaganda locally and domestically here in the United States. And that was kind of slipped in the back door, if you will. Sometimes they call this pork, that some will put this in different bills, and you don't really necessarily read everything, but it gets put in there and it gets passed unanimously. So now they can legally lie. And I don't know what kind of how to say it, what I mean by legally lying is propaganda. But it's just like saying, like they said here, the Russians were 10 feet tall, right? These big guys, and they're going to fight the Ukraine. Ukraine don't have a chance. But, in fact, the Russians aren't 10 feet tall, and they're not really the best fighters. In fact, even the Germans gave us a nickname, the Marine Corps nickname in World War I. They called us Turfelhund. That meant devil dog in German, but that's what they nicknamed the Marine Corps, because we went into Bellawood with 150 or so Marines, and just kicked the shit out of 2,000 German troops and actually freed France in that battle, the Battle of Belleau Wood. So I mean, there's that's kind of a bit not really propaganda when they call the Marines devil god. They were and still are fierce fighters. But by saying different things, spreading propaganda, making people believe one thing, well, they could say this, and if they say something long enough, you know how it goes. If you say something long enough, it becomes the truth. But in this case here, it's just like Alejandro Mayorkas. He said over and over again that the border was secure. Now, we saw people coming across the border every day. It was on the news all the time. Now, some would say these newscasts, when they would show people coming across the border, well, that happened last year. Well, that wasn't yesterday. And, they would say different things like that to make you believe that it was now. Okay, this is what's happening now. And it really wasn't then. But that's propaganda. Alejandro Mayorkas, by saying everything, the border was secure, that was propaganda. And either you believed it or you didn't. And we all know that, 10, 20, 30 million people came across the border during Biden's tenure as a president. And so that's the thing about propaganda. Either you believe it or you don't. And if it sounds good enough, and the Democrats do that quite a bit, they'll tell a story and make it sound so good. They say this all the time. This their talking points. We're gonna get rid of Social Security. We're gonna tax the poor and give the rich, billionaires. It used to be millionaires, now it's billionaires. They say we'll tax them and not tax them, but give them tax breaks, which is all a farce. That's all wrong. And you can see what Donald Trump is doing right now, and as a president now, in his first 7 months as president, he's really got a lot of things accomplished. He's ended 6 or 7 different conflicts. Actually, wars have been going on for a number of them. They've been going on for a number of years. And he stopped the conflicts there. And so the biggest one, what he thought would be the easiest one, was Russia and the Ukraine, but it turned out to be a little bit tougher. So they're still working out the details on that. But now that they got the European Union and all the leaders there of Europe that were there at the White House just yesterday, and I guess they're going to sign something today. There's more stuff that's going on, but he's really getting the ball rolling. So Putin really doesn't really have much to say. Of course, the Russians aren't 10 feet tall, right? That's false propaganda. That's propaganda right there. But this Smith-Mundt Act, I mean, you can look into it a little bit more, but it makes, when the president says, well, that's fake news, well, this is fake news, that's fake news, and when he doesn't agree with something, the news, from MSNBC and CNN, well, that's fake news, they're fake news. Well, I don't know if he got that from the Smith-Mundt Act, where, there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of lies. I mean, you can look at Adam Schiff. Look at Adam Schiff. They're going after him right now because of all the lies that he said. And still don't know how California elected him to be our senator here. But that's another story in itself. But he just, I mean, he was when he was in the House of Representatives, they monitored, what do they call that, when admonished him as in the House of Representatives, so I don't understand how he ran for Senate and was still won the Senate seat. But so they're going after him right now. But does any of this have to do with Smith-Mundt? Maybe. And when President Trump said, "Oh, that's fake news," maybe that has something to do with this Smith-Mundt Act. This is something I don't know anything about. I mean, you can look into it a little bit more. I'll probably talk about it a little bit more. The more information that I get about it, and we'll talk about it. But I guess it gives you the right to lie. I mean, that's just. I mean, the Democrats lie all the time, and the Republicans do too. Okay, there's some Republicans. I mean, what was his name? George Santos. He won a seat in the House. And he lied about his history and the things that he's done. And he was a Republican, and I guess I don't know if he's doing some prison time. I think he is. I think he might be doing some prison time over what he had said, the things that he had said, because it was all lies. And so, I mean, it goes on both sides. But mainly the Democrats. They're the ones that really lie the most. But lying is lying. So this Smith-Mundt Act kind of gave him the right to do it, and then with Obama reversing it, redoing the Smith-Mundt Act, it gave us a right to lie here, to spread propaganda back here locally, domestically. And but there's all kinds of things, like I just said. Alejandro Mayorkas, by saying that the border was secure, and and Joe Biden, he's cognitive, he's tight, he's as sharp as attack, and all the other little sayings that they said about Joe Biden, say the euphemisms they use, saying that he was a great president, he knew what he's talking about. I don't think he had a clue for the longest time that he was even president of the United States. Maybe because he was told he was president, he really believed it. But there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of lying going on right now. So maybe they're going to do something about the Smith-Mundt Act now that it's getting to be, like I said, I just heard about it last week. So that's something else to look into. As you can pull it up on YouTube or Google it, and it's there. It's the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948 that was redone in 2012 by Barack Obama. And if you notice, for the last since then or right before then, there's been a lot of lies. I would say, starting with the Obama administration, there was a lot of lies said and during that period. So let's say for the last 12, 15 years, it's getting worse. The line is getting worse. The only one that, and I'll say this in closing, and please subscribe and press like and share and hit the notification bell so you'll know next time that I'm on. But President Trump, he's got nothing to really lie about, and you think about it. I mean, he's not after big. It's all about money and power, right? Well, he's got money and he's got power. That's not something that he needs. What he's doing, and if you can see what he's doing, you can see what's going on right now, and you've seen it in his first term. He loves this country and he wants to get things straightened out here, and I really believe that. And I believe when he says something, I believe it to be true, because I mean, he'll say things. I mean, my son said this the other day. Who was it? That Zohan, was this Mayambi or whatever his name? He's run for mayor of New York. My son says, look at him. He does just like Barack Obama used to do. He would look this way and talk a little bit, and then he'd turn his head this way and look this way, and he'd talk a little bit, and he'd do this back and forth. With the Zohan, he would do the same thing all the time. He'd look from one side to the other. And if you look at Donald Trump will look right at you, and then he'll pick somebody out in the crowd and say, hey, look, hey, that's so-and-so. Oh, yeah, and he's got a great wife, a beautiful wife. I think she's the best, or so on and so forth. He'll say good things about different people and people in their lives, because he knows so many people, and he doesn't have a problem with saying that, looking you right in the eye and telling you what he thinks about whatever. And you got to believe that's true, okay? You got to believe that's true. And because I do think that's what he does. He does tell the truth. So we'll see what happens, and see how far they go with this. Because now it's just like this. My screen keeps going off here a little bit. It has some adjustments. But I think that this is getting a little more notoriety, or I'm spreading it as much as I can, and I talk to everybody about it, because nobody really knows what the Smith-Mundt Act is. But I think people are going to start looking into it, and this right to lie, if you will, or we just call it fake news, what the president calls it. Because it used to be when President Trump would say, "Oh, that's fake news. So this is fake news. That's fake news," and I'd get cringe just a little bit, because the way he said it, it's fake news. Well, that was his way of saying it, and I believed him. I believed what he was saying, but I didn't really know why he came up with that. And I don't know that the Smith-Mundt Act is something that made him realize that of the fake news, and that's why he came up with that saying. I don't know that, but it does it does correlate with everything, doesn't it? So anyhow, look into that Smith-Mundt Act. It was 1948. It was written right after World War II, and it was to be able to spread propaganda to other nations, but nothing to be said here to spread false, lies and propaganda here in the United States. But when Barack Obama redid it in 2012, he opened the door. So that I don't know if you want to call that a shield. It shielded us from propaganda and stuff. Maybe it did a little bit, but now it just left it wide open to where you can just say whatever you want to say, and if a person wants to believe it, well, they can believe it, or not believe it. So anyhow, so look into that, would you? And when something gets signed here with Ukraine and what's going on over there in Europe and Donald Trump, that they get something going on between Putin and Zelensky, and we'll see what happens. And if they can stop this war too, because Donald Trump is the peace president. Okay. So anyway, please subscribe, press the like button, and hit the notification bell. And we'll see you next time on Coffee Break with Jimmy. Thank you very much. See you next time.